Welcome back to In the Garden. I am joined with Jordan from Grange Co-op, and today we're talking about hanging baskets and how to take care of them. What is really the first thing we really need to know when it comes to, taking care of our hanging baskets?
Sure. So a lot of people who had probably bought their baskets early as March and April really liked them when they started. Maybe now they're looking a little peckish. Maybe there's a couple days we forgot to water them on vacay. But a lot of times we can bring those back and resuscitate them. There's no need to chuck them out. The first thing would be making sure that you're deadheading your baskets. So geraniums are really common and one of the easiest ones to actually deadhead. Anytime you have these where all the blooms are spent or even the most are spent, I just go in there, a couple sharp fingernails and pluck them out. Anytime you have older leaves, you can pluck those out too. That's going to be the simplest way to kind of keep them going. A lot of flowers like geraniums, petunias, fuchsias, if they flower and set seed too much, they're going to stop blooming. And I get that often when people ask, well, my basket's all green, what happened? Just needs a little bit of deadheading, maybe a little bit of fertilizer, it's going to come back just fine.
All right, and so you mentioned fertilizer. That's obviously a really important part to maintaining a healthy basket. Mm-hmm. How does one go about, putting fertilizer in a basket that's already hanging? So
if your basket's looking good and green and it's growing just fine, keep on with usually a liquid fertilizer, or if that daily care isn't what you're looking for, maybe something granular like an Osmocote or a granulated organic fertilizer, something that's going to be a trickle feed. As always, just follow the manufacturer's instructions with how often and how much to use. If your basket's looking a little wearisome like this is, there's actually a few steps we can take to kind of clean that up a bit and get it to bounce back. In that case, you don't want to try to fix this with an overabundance of fertilizer. You're going to end up stressing it out more. The plant just needs a recovery. It doesn't need to be engorged on nutrients.
Okay.
A big basket like this has probably been around since something like March or so. I'm going to go around and prune or clean maybe about a third of it. I'm going to take down. It's going to be really drastic. I'm going to get like a lot more exposed dirt sometimes. I'm going to be taking off a lot of blooms. It happens. But the goal here is to encourage a lot of growth near the bottom of the plant and stop all this extra stuff from being leggy. Some plants that are in hanging baskets, while they do weep and cascade, at the end of the day, they're going to keep growing to the point where all the new growth is on the outside and you're left with this bald spot in the middle.
Okay, and so then what about like watering these hanging baskets? I mean, if you're pruning them and taking out all the dead stuff, you obviously got to water it to regrow all those bad boys, right?
Totally. So in the hot heat of the day, you're probably going to be watering this daily. There are some things you can do to kind of minimize that. I love these soil moist crystals. They're a polymer that expands in the presence of water. It'll let that water out slowly as opposed to just drying and shrinking up the soil. I've used those several times in not just hanging baskets, but patio containers, and it really minimizes, if nothing else, that gap between when they absolutely need water. Kind of gives you a little bit of a saving grace.
All right, and so is there anything else that people might need to know about, taking care or plucking or pruning the hanging baskets?
So the big thing is, if you maybe you have a basket that's on the small side and you're working towards keeping that for the year round, ultimately you might consider replanting that. The simplest thing is going to be getting probably a larger basket, starting out with a brand new liner to put it in there, because we're going to be taking it out of this plastic liner, and you're going to need more soil because you're short in volume. Regular potting soil will work just fine. Something for seed starting is also great. That's usually a lighter soil that's going to drain really well but still hold the moisture it needs. And then just gently replant it in your new pot, just like you'd be putting a flower in the ground. And then I recommend setting it aside somewhere that maybe gets morning light but some afternoon protection for a good couple weeks. Again, the low dose fertilizer, low and slow, and let it come back into its own. It should be ready to go and blooming within a few weeks.
Amazing, awesome. Well, if you guys have any hanging baskets that you want to, bring back to life, we can obviously help you here at the Grange Co-op and have, bring these beauties back to life. Thanks so much for joining us in the garden, and you can always check on our website for more information at kdov.com or step inside of a Grange Co-op store to get some amazing help. But thanks so much for joining in the garden.